welcome to Home Hive. My name is Kristen. I am your host today, and I am interviewing Will Johnson of Inspection Perfection. Welcome, Will.
Yeah, hi. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks so much for being here. So today we have you on because we're going to talk about your company, Sustainrgy, mainly about energy. So can you tell us more about that?
Sure. Yeah. So thanks for having me. I started my business as a home inspector, Inspection Perfection, started in 2005. It's really given me a unique opportunity to really understand our housing stock inventory out there, all of the conditions. We've completed about 4,500 inspections to date. Still a very active part of my business. But I saw some opportunities in the marketplace in the 2009 timeframe in terms of energy efficiency, and this was something that I was always interested in. So I started my certification process as a certified energy assessor. And what's very unique about my business is I actually include energy assessments with every home inspection I do. So it gives me a chance to educate customers of all of the needs for energy efficiency. So I'd like to sort of walk you through some of the processes of that to understand what drives energy efficiency, what the demands are, and how we can go about resolving it. So as I mentioned, I include home energy assessments with every home inspection process that I do. And, here's just an example of what really drives and what energy assessments are. Homes built before 1978, as an example, really lacked any energy efficiency standards. So anybody that has that kind of a property, there's some good opportunities to start talking about energy assessments. But what also drives a lot of demand are comfort issues. So energy efficiency and comfort go hand in hand. In addition, there's a lot of health and safety issues that come about in the energy assessment process. Where you have combustion appliances inside the house, like a water heater and furnace, there's always that potential of carbon monoxide. And we actually evaluate those types of conditions. Also, indoor air quality issues. Ventilation is part of the evaluation process. And that's something I'd like to talk a little bit further about at the end of the presentation, sort of a COVID strategy that I talk about in terms of just making homes that much safer. So let's just talk about why energy assessments. As I mentioned, older homes built before 1978 lacked any energy efficiency standards. We don't know if there's insulation in the walls. And what I can tell you, if you don't have insulation in the walls, you're going to know it because you're going to have comfort issues. Really doesn't matter whether you're by the coast or in some of the hotter climates in East County and desert types of climates out there, you're definitely going to notice comfort issues, hot and cold. In fact, we still run into energy efficiency conditions in our inventory built all the way up to the year 2000. Some of you may not realize, but our energy code mandate started in 1978. It was actually driven by an oil crisis that we had back in the 70s, and realized that we were very vulnerable to the prices and stock of oil back in that time frame. So 1978, sort of the mandate that California came up with in 1978 is we're going to do energy assessments every 3 years, looking at actually improving the energy codes, and it had to be cost effective. So this becomes very relative as we start working with different stock out there. They were sort of prone to certain types of energy codes at the time of construction. So one of the bigger opportunities to talk about energy assessments is because of a lack of consumer information about energy efficiency. Unfortunately, a lot of wrong decisions can be made, particularly when it comes to comfort issues and high energy bills. So as an example, if you have a comfort issue, you're probably not thinking of an energy assessment. You're probably thinking of contacting a heating, air conditioning, ventilation contractor, an HVAC contractor. And what'll unfortunately will happen is you're going to call them out saying, I have comfort issues. They are going to start putting together a heating, cooling, ducting system solution for you. The problem is we sort of lose our optics in terms of the energy efficiency, particularly like if we don't have any insulation inside of walls. As I mentioned, you're going to have comfort issues. And what's going to happen with the HVAC contractor, they're going to try to offset that inefficiency in a home by selling you higher capacity equipment. The problem with that is that A, it has higher costs. You're going to have to run that system longer because you're fighting physics, right? If you have a west and south facing wall with no insulation in it, you have all that heat gain. So you have your AC working that much harder just to offset all of that heat gain. That's a problem. It actually shows up in your monthly utility bill. So you have higher capital costs going into this. You have higher energy costs into it. And then the third, in terms of the unfortunate trifecta, is you're going to go through your equipment a lot faster. It's operating a lot longer than it should be. So instead of, lasting 15, 20 years, it's more like 10 to 12 because you're just cycling through it that much faster. I had mentioned just one other option in here in terms of the cost effectiveness of it. And, what's unique about energy assessments is it does have some kind of a payback. You make the home more energy efficient, you have some capital costs to go into it, but what comes along with that is you're lowering your utility bill. And so over, 10 to 20 to 30 years, those energy efficiency improvements start to pay for itself because you're saving on your energy bill. So that's sort of a unique advantage that, you don't talk about when you're doing a kitchen or a bathroom remodel. You're not really looking at any kind of a real payback on it. So these should all be real compelling reasons why we should be looking at energy assessments. One of the reasons we're talking to Kristen, to you today, is just talking about how the new energy code impacts accessory dwelling units. And I think a lot of people have become aware that new construction beginning in 2020 actually required solar systems as a mandate, as a requirement. So not just for ADUs, but all new constructions requires a solar system to help offset those costs. What's sort of important to know is the calculation in terms of how much solar you put on there is based off of the square footage. And because of these accessory dwelling units, could be, 500 square feet to 1,200 square feet. It's really not a high capital cost associated to installing solar. The one project that we funded 2 months ago came in right around $9,600. So again, that's really not adding a lot to the budget. And then if you remember, this whole concept in terms of energy efficiency, this all has return on investment. It pays for itself. So just sort of bear that in mind. You might have higher capital costs, but you are getting return on investment because of lower energy costs. I have a cheat sheet that's available to share with clients if they want to understand more about other energy requirements. For example, you have higher insulation requirements in walls. I share with a lot of contractors, and this catches them by surprise, that we're past the day of building a 2x4 exterior wall. And the reason for that is we have much higher insulation requirements as a result. And insulation, I've come to appreciate it really becomes a real cost-effective strategy for thermal protection out there. And we just continue to see insulation requirements increase, because it's cost effectiveness and the fact that it just works. So you'll see in newer construction, the comfort issues are very, very apparent, particularly when you are in hotter climates associated with that. The mechanicals don't really change. And what I mean by that, your heating and cooling solutions out there. But one of the advantages we run into with accessory dwelling units is because a lot of these have very open designs associated with them. That's a perfect application for a mini split to be able to really cost effectively provide that kind of heating and cooling in one open space like that. That's become a real popular solution. We'll talk a little bit about other mechanicals. On the water heating side, tankless water heaters are very cost effective. And now we're going to start talking about heat pump water heaters in terms of its viability. So that sort of brings me into sort of the next section of what my discussion is about. Some of you may be aware of some of the mandates out there, but we're sort of on the hook by 2030 in terms of reducing our greenhouse gas emissions. They are targeting it to be 40% below 1990 levels. Don't ask me why they made that as a measurement, but that actually is beginning to have a more and more influence in our building stock today. So even though we're 9 years away from that, this is really impacting on how we're looking at construction today. And then I think some of you are probably aware of all new vehicles in California must be an all electric design. And, this is turning into becoming more and more of a discussion all the time. I had a client last week during a home inspection. They wanted to make sure that they had additional capacity to support an all electric car that they already have by now. And what I wanted to share is this mandate, even though it's in 2035, it's already happening now. Most major auto manufacturers have already announced all new lines of all electric vehicles that are going to be available this year. So it's here. So as we start talking about everything going all electric, that's going to affect our housing stock. The fact that we're going all electric with our automotive is really going to be a game changer out there. The automotive industry is already responding to it. I think I had mentioned previously China. We will start seeing a lot of automobiles coming directly from China. California is not alone in just going to this all electric vehicle mandate. China has a vision on there. They are behind it. This has taken place in Europe. We believe we'll see other states starting to adopt this. And the fact that automobile manufacturers are behind this, this is really beginning to impact us and give us those kinds of choices today. So this really does affect our housing stock. I just wanted to also share, we're past prototyping all electric airplanes, believe it or not. We're not just prototyping. These are actually in production. And I had no idea, but, we have all electric motorcycles that are currently available and running. So the whole world is going to all electric. So how does this affect our housing stock? One of the mandates a lot of the local building departments have talked about is beginning to implement an all-electric mandate. So here in California in 2020, two cities, City of Berkeley and San Luis Obispo, have adopted an all-electric mandate for all construction, both residential and commercial. And it means exactly that. Again, what's driving that is, if you saw in the last slide here, is we're trying to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. So any type of combustion inside your residential property is something we're trying to eliminate to really hit that goal. So what I can tell you, even though we have sort of our outliers of Berkeley and San Luis Obispo going to an all-electric design, last publication that I saw, we have 50 other building departments that are in the process of adopting an all-electric design. Carlsbad has made an announcement for an all-electric implementation, not the same breadth that we see with these other two municipalities. So really what that means to a builder or somebody building an ADU, as we already understand, we have to have solar. But let's look at the mechanicals, the heating and cooling. So those options are things like heat pumps or mini splits that we had just talked about. That's an all-electric design. One of, I think, the newer innovations that I think the consumer marketplace is not familiar with is there are actually water heaters that are referred to as heat pump water heaters. So this is all electric design. Almost think of it as having sort of an air conditioning heat pump system mechanics sitting on top of your water heater. And what it's doing is it's taking heat out of the air. It's actually sort of, think of an air conditioning in reverse. And it's taking the heat out of the air, like in the garage, and then recycling that and regenerating it and transferring that heat through into your water heater system. So, and it's very, very, very efficient. Most municipalities and utility companies are actually offering rebates available today on heat pump water heaters. So this is something, if you're looking at making a change out and interested in energy efficiency, I think there's some good rebates out there, $500 if I remember correctly in SDG&E territory. So there's good incentives to do that. One of the areas that I think have been a resistance is your kitchen. People love their gas stove, and that's really been sort of a resistance that I think the Energy Commission has anticipated. So they're really behind not just electric stoves, but induction stoves, range systems. And, that's nothing new, that's the technology, but those are also very energy efficient. So once we sort of make a commitment to going to an all-electric design, one of the benefits of that savings is you no longer have the cost associated with bringing gas into the house. So that could be savings of thousands of dollars. I've seen quotes, $2,000, $5,000, $10,000 sometimes to bring gas services. So there's that capital savings that really help offset the opportunity there with mechanicals. And then, as I just sort of shared with you, we're going to an all-electric vehicle paradigm here. So sort of keep that in mind when you go to design an accessory dwelling unit. Make sure you're designing it with not only your solar capacity, but your electrical capacity to handle the additional amperage. Go to a 200 amp panel, and now you're sort of secure that you can add additional solar panels, as well as you'll have capacity to support your all-electric vehicle. So I would encourage anybody that's looking at doing an accessory dwelling unit is to look at this, sort of go through the exercise in developing an all-electric strategy, because that's where we're going. That's where we're absolutely going to meet all of the agendas. We're trying to make this as cost-effective as possible.